Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have my top 16 breakdown for the CoreTCG Long Beach Treasure Cup that happened this past weekend. It was 492 players in person with 9 whole rounds of Swiss into a top 16 cut that went all day. And real quick before we start as well, one big shouts to Core for not only running this event, for not only helping with these deck lists, but also just for letting me and Bryant do the stream for it. It was just amazing. It was the best stream I've literally ever done. We hit like 15 away from 1,000 concurrent viewers at the finals. It was a really great experience, and I couldn't do it without all of your support. And I really super appreciate it in just so many ways. So thank you guys so much for all the support on that. The VOD for the event is on my Twitch right now, which is linked in the description. It's also linked in this document, which also is linked in the description, and it's also going to be re-uploaded to Brian's YouTube channel, Stage Zero, later this week as well. So if you guys want to see the tournament, which I highly recommend, I think is a really good tournament for this game, and a lot of really diverse matches, and it's just a really great meta for this game to kind of start off with. So we have that. And also, if you guys appreciate this video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button too. This information took a lot to put together. I had to hand input everything, get this data. I'm like running on like 4-hour sleeps over 2 days because I had to travel home today, a 6-hour drive from Arizona. I'm editing this video and then I'm going to bed. Like that is how tired I am. So if you guys appreciate all the hard work, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe here on YouTube right back. So anyways, going into this top 16 breakdown, we did have 6 Luffys, which I'm big fan of Luffy, and it's really cool to see 6 of them get this top 16, including Bryant Nguyen's first place finish there. 3 Don Quixote Doflamingos, which is pretty unusual as well. I feel like it's just had more finishes in this event than the last month of like larger unofficial events too, so it's very interesting there. 3 Captain Kids, 2 Trafalgar Laws, 1 Zoro, and 1 Kaido as well. And we do also have something that I don't always get is the leader breakdown. So these are all 492 leaders, I guess, that were played for this. So 134 Kid Kaido, Zoro being the top 3, I think is not too surprising for something like this. But I do think, like, if you look at this pie chart, like they're like the bottom 3, right? Like the fact that Zoro had 89, but only 1 finished, in Kaido as well, 92, but only 1 finished. Luffy, I think, had the best return rate of it having 55 in the tournament, but 6 of them made that top 10. So that's like 10%, like a little bit better than 10% of them making the top 16. Trafalgar Law, we had 2 of 49. Don Quixote Doflamingo, we had 3 out of 40, which is great. And then just diversity. I know a lot of people, like I saw a couple blue purple Crocs like top tables in the middle of the tournament, but they did not quite get there either. So we also do have the bracket because it was played out. It was best of 3, and that is all there. So we're just gonna go over the individual leaders, top with the top placing leader for each one, starting off with Bryant Nguyen's first place Luffy. Starting off, we have Bryant Nguyen's first place Luffy, and if you guys know me and have been watching my channel, this is definitely my favorite leader in this set right now. I think it's very strong. I think it's flexible for what it's doing, and this is 100% the leader I would be playing in the tournament if I was playing in it. So I will say that Bryant is running a couple of different cards than I would, and honestly, all the Luffys, even though we had 6 different ones, had a lot of different ratios, which I think is really neat as well for them. So going over Bryant specifically, some key cards. One, it's pretty much like a 50-50 split between the ones that top of that. Are we doing like Ben Beckman and Shanks, like doing like 7 or 8 of them between the 4, the 2 cards? Are we doing like still like a mid-low end? And so he definitely played the high end. I did an interview with him as well, and he said that, I would totally play the 4 Shanks, probably take a Brook for it, and these really carry out some of the grindier matchups. Obviously, if you're playing against something like aggressive like Zoro, you do kind of lose out on the fact that like these are probably deadish in hand, or you don't have enough time to play them, but they're just very strong cards for decks that kind of have the game go a little bit longer too. And he did play a lot of event cards too, so 3 Red Hawks, a Round Table, 4 Jet Pistols, a Jambé. So really interesting. There's 9 here? Yeah, there's 9 here, which is quite a lot. I kind of like put 2 Red Hawks, and sometimes I just draw too many of them and they feel bad, and I think it's to the point where people are starting to play around the idea of Red Hawk, but sometimes they can't, especially if they have like a 1-drop blocker, as well as if this hits in your life, there's a really good chance that you just like don't lose the game on that turn too. Round table is really interesting. It is good for some removal, especially with a combination of Jet Pistol, or if you have like Niko Robin already established on board. I like it. I usually like Trafalgar Law better, even though it's significantly less, minus on there, but there's that. And then pretty much the rest of the cards are pretty understood. I still do not necessarily like the 1-drop Nami, but enough people played it that I think I'm going to try it out my next time I build the deck. And I can see it like turn 1 and 2. Like you always want to go first with this deck in my mind, because you always want to play Robin on turn 3. So having just like additional 1-drop plays to keep as much value as you can going, I can see that being helpful as well. So you're not always going to find this 1-drop Nami. So having like 9 targets for your first turn is probably pretty good there. So anyways, congrats again to Bryant, and real big thanks for him just sitting down with the interview. I know he's just tired and ready to leave, but I really do appreciate that too. So next up, we have our second place list. This is Emmanuel's Law, and Emmanuel did a fantastic run. He only lost the finals. That was his only match loss for the day. He went undefeated in Swiss, and it was very strong. And honestly, I think the finals could have gone either way. Spoilers, because you guys know how it ended, but I think it's a very strong match. And obviously he was playing like 12, both players that were like 12, 13 hours deep into playing this game. So very slog. And Trafalgar Law is definitely the list you don't want to be playing for 12 hours, because there's just so many routes for this deck to play through and decisions to make. And again, if you make like 1,000 decisions over 12 hours, guess what? One of them's probably going to be a mistake. So anyways, the kind of differences I've seen for this list, and particularly one X-Drake is a really nice add for this. This is something I personally have been trying out a little bit. I don't super like Law. I don't think I'm it's really cool when it works, but it's not a deck that I'd be able to consistently play throughout a tournament. But X-Drake, it gets a lot of value, especially like if your opponent has like a 3 cost out. Like it pops so many Zoros that this weekend. It's just a very strong card in that. Also, the Star deck Trafalgar Law has been kind of more and more present lately. It kind of took it didn't really see any play in the beginning, but it's kind of the same thing as this Law as well. It's a 1k counter, which is never bad as a supernova, so you can find it with Bonnie. And the fact that you can like double up on your Dawn is great, especially something with Brook. You can use Brook to get like to your 5th character, put 2 Dawn on something and attack, and then you can use Trafalgar Law with your leader ability to return Brook to hand to play Trafalgar Law, and then you get another attack with that guy, and it has the +2 Dawn and whatever else you invested to. So it pretty much turns a lot of cards into like a Basil Hawkins, which is great, and it can help in like some matchups, which I think is a strong card there. Everything else pretty okay. 2 Momo. You kind of just have to run this card, even though it whiffs a lot. Just the fact that it's a 1-drop is sometimes good enough. And the fact that, and 2 Jet Pistol, I know people kind of have started at 4, then they're at 3, and 2 at this one. I do like the card, but again, like you almost always want to see your characters, because you want to be able to try to maximize your chances to get some plays off. And so down to 2 is how it is. I think that's fine. I don't know. You just don't want to be stuck with them in hand, because you want to get characters a lot of the time too. So anyways, congrats to Emmanuel for their finish there. Trafalgar Law in general, I think, is a really cool deck. You're always going to find a lot, different builds. There's a lot of tech cards, and this is just with set 1. So we're going to see what set 2 also brings with that around the corner. I don't think this leader is necessarily going anywhere there. So next up, we do have our 3rd place and 4th place. So 3rd and 4th were both Doffys, and also spoilers, the not top 4. So Sam Tools, he's running the exact same list as Matthew, which I'm pretty sure I had to hand do it, but I'm pretty sure the exact list. So this list here is Matthew Okimoto's, and this one is Michael Silenski's. Very similar in general too, not a lot of changes, but we're going to go over both of them. In general, the things that are the same are the cards that you use that are the 7 Warlords. So Marshall D. Teach, Kuma, Boa Hancock, Don Quixote, Doflamingo, 3-drop, the 1-drop Law, Gecko, Dracul, and then also Pacifista, which isn't 7 Warlords, but I think both those, that's pretty much the base of both these lists, in the sense that these are just the best Warlords that we have right now. Obviously, we're getting at least the Jinbei promo, which was something that you can use in March for a deck like this, but I think it's pretty understood that these are just the best cards for like the low end for it, and then it's just your kind of decision for how your high end looks. So both Matthew and Sam decided to use a Virgo, which I like this. It's taken me a minute, but I do like the idea of this card in the deck. 2 of the 7 drops, Don Quixote do Flamingos, and then 4 of the Mihawks is one. Both were playing the 4 of the Mihawks. It's very great at removal, and I like the idea of it. And then just 2 Desert Spadas, which I hope you set up the top cards of your deck if you need it. But I do like what Michael did as well. So he's running 3 of the Crocodile super rare from the set, and this card just lets you use the has Banish, which is great because you're normally kind of playing a slower game anyways. And I would say, like, by and large, like, don't get me wrong, like, Don Quixote do Flamingo is a really nice card, but there's just so many cards it doesn't hit, and like it wasn't like the really really good hit that this is still in the game, that's still getting played in my mind, is the 7-drop Blocker Kid, right? That one, this is a really good card for that. Otherwise, there's most cards like you bounce back to hand, you wouldn't want to have them play again, especially like in red and green and that idea. So I can see like why this wouldn't be as popular as a pick right now, at least for this meta, especially because it doesn't have a counter, but this having a counter cost and a really great effect of the Dawn ×1. So all of your blue cards have a cost 1 less if you have a Dawn underneath it, which means that your level up beams now cost 1. So a 1k or one cost 4 plus 4k power, and then you get to draw a card if you have 3 or less in hand. Very, very strong card. So being able to get both of them is good. Your opponents won't have a lot of removal for this card either because it is a 7, which is nice. And I do like the addition for this, so I think that helps the deck a lot. And then again, 3 of the Dracula Mihawks over here compared to the 4, but I think I like these ratios. I think it's a cool idea to add these, and I'm definitely going to be tinkering with some of my own Don Quixote do Flamingos kind of builds after this too. So congrats again to Matthew, Michael, and Sam as well for their finishes there. Moving on to the top 8, we have Joshua Towers' Zoro, which was the only Zoro in the top 16, which is really interesting there too, especially since I think a lot of people like playing Zoro over Luffy, and I think that's, at least on a low level, a lot of people do that. Like, we have the information that it was, I think, twice as popular almost as Luffy in this build, but it just didn't perform as well in a top 16. So, but I do like this build from Joshua. It definitely kind of integrates the strengths of Zoro over what Luffy has, and just has like this big kind of rush kind of style, and just is really obnoxious and very, very fast as well. So the idea with this is just to more exclusively have like a wide board of like smaller guys that you can buff up. And obviously we have the kind of like the 1-drop army coming in set 2. So this is kind of like the set 2, or like the 2-drop army, which I saw kind of like the beginning of set 1, but I kind of saw it kind of go away. So it's cool to see it come back in style like this. So at least to me, some other people might say, oh, I've always seen this build, but recently for me, it's been a minute. So again, it's the idea that you're playing these 2-drop cards with no skills, but they're 4K, which means that if you put 1 underneath the Zoro, your VV and your Psy both become 5Ks, which means they can start pressuring damage on your opponent, which, for like very minimal Dawn investment, you get to do that. You get to go wider on the board, which again Zoro loves to do, because if you have a wide board, you just means that 1 Dawn you use to attach onto the Zoro, expands across your entire board. So that if you have 5 characters out, that 1 Dawn is providing plus 6 Dawn worth of stuff, right? 1 on your leader and then 5 across your characters. So that's kind of what you'd want to do anyways. So capitalizing on that is strong. Running Soniku as well. Some removal, playing the Niko Robin and the Beppo as well. I do like Beppo for Luffy, but like a 2K counter if you need it like on curve and you don't have Niko Robin, it's good there. And then just a bunch of finishers, and only running 3 jet pistols, only running 3 Luffys. But man, this is a very, very aggressive deck. And at least in top 16, paired up against Kaido, which I can only imagine is like one of the best kind of matchups for this deck. And it was still very tight, but man, it can just hit face very, very quickly if you're not prepared. So congrats again to Joshua for their top 8 finish there. And then next up we have our top 8 Eustass Kid. So this is Niko's Eustass Kid, which I know Niko from our Stage 0 tournaments that we've been doing for set 1 in January. and I would hope to see him again. We were planning on doing some free tournaments for set 2 with some not free prizes, meaning you can win packs and cards and stuff. So be on the lookout for that. But anyways, back to Niko here. He was playing Eustass Kid the entire event, and as in our entire Circuit Series event, and he just very, very familiar with how this deck works. A lot of personalized touches to this deck, a very personalized deck list, which is always really cool to see. I like when people decide on how their deck ticks and makes the one ofs, the two ofs, and there's a lot of one ofs in this one as well. So primarily for me, Yamato, which I think people like running. I don't know if it's just because it's flashy or just it's a 1K, it's a Wano country, so it's never it has a lot of good traits, right? It's really hard to sometimes have it work, but as a second, Basil Hawkins, I think if you're going first as Kid, which you normally want to do, I think Basil Hawkins on curve is probably the best play in the deck. Yamato could just be a backup for that. Trafalgar Law, which I've been liking less and less in my own builds, just because sometimes you don't have enough cards on board to bounce them back to hand, but I do you want to go first with this deck, so you want to have these 5 costs that you can really get some value with playing on curve. The top end only running 1 of the 7-drop blocker, which normally I've been seeing this 2 and 3, and sometimes even more than the 8-drop, but only 1 here, which is kind of interesting. And then running quite a few event cards, which traditionally I've been seeing a lot of builds where either they're running 3 or 4 like this one, or some just completely abandoned the event cards for a deck like this. But 2 Punk Gibsons, a Paradise Waterfall, and a Straw Sword. I really do like Straw Sword. I've said it 100 times. I wish the trigger just also rested something. That was just a thing. But I think a lot of people play around having a bigger blocker or something else, saying, oh, I'm safe. Cat Viper won't be able to hit it, or even Izo won't be able to hit it because it's a 5 cost. And then you just use Straw Sword and they just become very sad because of it. So I think it's a really nice low tech option, and it can kind of function as a Jombe in the right spots too, which is fantastic when you have a leader that is able to swing twice. So 2 10k swings with Straw Sword and the 3 effect can probably win you the game if your opponent tried to just sit on 1 block and say that they're fine and they can live. So anyways, I don't have a lot to say about Kid. It's a very, very kind of understood deck list with the ratios most of the time, but I do think Niko has a unique build here that he's been working on a long, long time, and really happy to see that finish for him there. So to wrap it on up, we do have Keith's top 16 Kaido, and only Kaido in the top 16, and really unfortunate playing against Zoro round 1 of that top 16. I think that was probably the worst matchup of the entire top 16 to play against, because that deck can just really, really punish you for being a slower deck, and sometimes that's what Kaido is, and most of the time that's what Kaido is. So, but going through this build, some choices made. One, Orochi as a 1-drop. This can really do work. It kind of just lets you see what's in your life if you go through deck. It's still a kind of edge case of how the procedure for this goes. In other Bandai card games, you kind of just have to search once for it and then you're done. But that's not really clear in this one. So being able to kind of know what's in your life, or know exactly what's in your life, or at least in the very least, you should be able to scan and see, oh, is Onigashima, are they all in my deck? Are they all in my life? Or what the kind of ratios for that there. Then also just having a 2K that you can swing afterwards to try to get rid of your opponent's cards. Like they swung with a Nami that they boosted the previous turn, you can use that and try to get rid of it. So I like the idea of a card on turn 1, of just, especially on a deck that doesn't have any turn 1 plays. And then using the Jack as your 3-drop. Sasaki and Jack have kind of been back and forth. I kind of like Sasaki a little bit more, just because even though it's a little bit slower, it is a 2K counter, so that does help your ratios for you there. Babanuki, which I think this is almost a staple of 2 in this deck. I think a lot of people have decided that it's a good card for that. 4 Kings from the starter deck, 2 from the set, 3 Kaido from the starter, and then 2 from the... these 4 cards is a lot of ratios. A lot of people swear by different ratios for this. They're always the cards that are stuck in your hand and aren't, if you see them on curve, you're really happy, and then if you see them late or you see them early, you're just really, really sad about it. So I don't know. Everyone has their own magic numbers for these, and that is what Keith decided there. 4 Blast Breath, 2 Thunder Bogwas, which makes sense, a Bracho Bomber, and then 4 Onigashi. So nothing, again, too wild, but I do think I did want to cover this build, and I like Kaido. I said leading up to this event, bunch of people are going to play it, which is true. One person's going to be lucky enough with all of their plays that they're going to get there, and at least one person. It was only one person for this top 16, but I think if there's enough people playing this deck, at least one of them will top just by sheer chances that they're just going to see everything they need pretty conveniently. So anyways, that is the top 16 for you guys there. Again, if you guys enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. We're trying to get to 10K on YouTube this month, and I want to get there. So, and I'm just going to pass out. I'm so tired. I'm sorry if this video is a little rushed or my commentary is not as good, but I'm dog tired and I'm ready to get some sleep. So again, thank you guys all for the support. I really super duper appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.